Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again, as always. And it's really my honor to introduce the president of the Georgia Association of Educators, who is now in her second term serving the organization of over 43,000 members, Ms. Calvine Rollins.
Yay! Let's give them a big agenda welcome. Thank you so much. First of all, we're so happy to have Tracy with us. We stole her from the League of Women Voters, and we're so happy we did. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Laura and Helen Butler, who've been working with us since January on this constitutional amendment that we're trying to defeat. We're working very hard, have a grassroots effort all over the state to defeat this amendment. And I need to say, first of all, that I am Calvine Rollins, president of the Georgia Association of Educators, on leave from Bainbridge High School in Bainbridge, Georgia. I was high school counselor there. And I want to say GAE is not opposed to charter schools, but we are opposed to this constitutional amendment. And we are opposed to this constitutional amendment because first of all, it takes away local control. Now, we have a system in place that approves charter schools currently. However, if this amendment passes, it would take away local control and it would create a commission that would allow the governor to have a state-appointed commission.
That's right.
Regarding our schools. Our state constitution, I'm going to talk to you, I've said, going all over the state speaking, that it's all about money, power, and a promise.
All right.
But I'm going to talk to you about a promise. Our state constitution makes a promise to Georgia's 1.6 million school children to properly fund our public schools. This is a promise that by many of our local and state leaders' own admission has never been fully realized.
All right.
You know that if you've been keeping up with the state budget on education, it has never been fully realized. So on November 6th, our communities will be asked to vote on a constitutional amendment regarding charter schools that will further erode this promise. Now, Amendment 1, if it should pass, would create a separate state school or system that would be funded, and get this, at a rate of up to 2.5 to 3 times higher than our existing public schools. Now, the final insult is that these state schools funding would come from our existing local public schools. Now, this would leave the vast majority of our children who will not be accepted into these state schools, even with less financial means than they currently have. Amendment 1 also disrespects and shows contempt for Georgia's Supreme Court. Now, the court last year ruled unconstitutional a 2008 law passed by our state legislature that formed and gave a state-appointed committee of outsiders the power to create, and remember now, fund from our existing public schools, state charter schools in our community. This committee would do this even if our local elected and accountable school leaders decided none were needed. They could override that. So you see, passage of Amendment 1 would break the promise and provide advantages for those few who would be handpicked, and they will be handpicked, to attend these new schools. So, you know, I have an idea. How about meeting our constitutional mandate, and let's see what our current schools can accomplish with the monies and resources they are qualified and supposed to have.
All right.
Don't we owe at least that to our children in their future?
Yes.
And yet, in another insult, these schools would not have to employ teachers certified in their areas of teaching. Now, I believe our communities are in agreement with those that call for our public schools to strive to have highly qualified, course certified teachers in its classrooms. Our children deserve that effort.
Amen.
But proponents of Amendment 1 don't see it that way. They would be content to have non-certified teachers in front of our students.
Right.
Now, it's one of the requirements for which they have asked to be exempted under this amendment. I truly hope, and I hope you know, that our communities consider passage of Amendment 1 a step backward from efforts to meet the promise that both we and our state constitution have made to Georgia's 1.6 million children. So on November 6th, I ask you to vote no on Amendment 1, and that will be a vote of yes for our public schools and our public children. Now, House Bill 797 has already set aside monies for our charter schools over a 5-year period, over $430 million.
Oh.
Over $430 million in House Bill 797.
They're already appropriated.
Already appropriated. That's how sure they are that it will pass. So I'm asking you to go out in your communities, call your relatives, call your friends, your neighbors, ask them to please vote no on Amendment 1. Now, the preamble is very misleading. And if you don't do your due diligence and ask your neighbors to do your due diligence and don't educate those of whom you come in contact with, then they will think that, oh, it's good for public schools because it's talking about student achievement. It's talking about improvements in education. But don't be fooled by that. It is a step backward. It is taken away. And what will ultimately happen is when these monies are taken away from our public schools, then what will happen in your local communities? Your taxes will be raised. They will have to go back and raise the millage rate so that the existing public schools can have the resources that they need. Currently, teachers are being furloughed. Our class sizes are increasing, so we're asking you to please go out, educate your neighbors, educate your friends, tell them to please vote no on Amendment 1 because it's a promise that the Constitution has made to our children that has never been fully realized, and it is time for legislators to stand up and to fully fund public education. So I won't take a whole lot of your time. Thank you so much, and I'll defer to Tracy, who will, if she would like to add anything else to that, she may do so at this time.
Thank you, Madam President. I mean, what else can I say? She laid it out clearly for us. We have information and materials that we can share with you, that you can share with your friends and neighbors. Our No magazine came out this week with the No on the cover. But I think more importantly, we explain it in detail, what this fight's about. But the other thing that I think, and I haven't told her this yet, but this magazine is directed at educators. So teachers, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, people in the classroom, superintendents and principals. And there's such good news in education in Georgia, but we never hear it. So, you know, this will give you information about some good news. We have schools in Georgia from Clark County, Cobb County, DeKalb County, Fulton, Gordon, Gwinnett, and Muskogee. Everywhere where they've gotten national blue ribbons. But we don't hear those stories. But we try to tell it to our educators. And we're happy to share these with you.
Finally, I'd say trust your state school superintendent. He has come out against this amendment because he understands what it does and how it erodes public education. So let's trust that and the fact that we're trying to educate everybody concerning this preamble and this amendment and vote no. Thank you so much.
All right.